and theater teacher. And let's all pause for a moment to recognize that Zach is a thespian. He's also been an unofficial uncle and an all-around great guy, Joe Page.
Well, I was honored. Zach asked me to make some brief remarks today. And anyway, welcome everyone to Talkeetna, and I think we can all say that we appreciate that Zach and Emily have had such great planning to create such a lovely day for us today. And I don't know how you were managed to look so far into the future and realize that this would be such a lovely day, but so it is. I was asked to speak a little bit about, to come up with maybe a few embarrassing moments about Zachary in particular, because, you know, as was mentioned, I knew Zach before he was born. You know, I think Chris and Barb, as I know, got engaged about a mile right over there in a little cabin in the woods on Pilgrim's Pond many years ago, and I think that would be the beginning of Zachary as he stands here before us. Anyway, you know, our families go way back, obviously, and it was a treat for us to be involved in the Mannix family. Our son Fernando and Zach and Jacob and the rest of the gang over here grew up together in this wonderful community. Fernando sends his regrets for not being able to be here today, of course. You know, this community is pretty cool because I think as Zach and most of these guys over here learned, if you get in trouble somewhere in our community, the word gets back home before you do. And, you know, so I think these young people here grew up with many families and many parents, because this is a community that really deeply loves young people, and we want them to have the best of life. A little about Zachary, in case you don't already know him as well as many of us do. I was looking through my brain and trying to find some anecdote that might characterize Zachary in a very concise way, and I think I talked to my son last night, and he reminded me of an incident that I think is probably a fine episode. Apparently, Zachary and Bill, as we are commonly referred to Jacob down here, and a couple of other buddies were floating the Chulitna River, and they put in up at the East Fork, and they were making their way back to Talkeetna, and of course, as often happens here, and despite this lovely day today, they were encountering weather much like yesterday morning, and they were freezing, cold, hungry, couldn't get a fire going, and you know, one thing led to another, and they finally made their way to the Chulitna River Bridge, where they climbed up to the highway and made their way to Mary Carey's Lodge, and went in there, you know, cold, freezing, shivering, and you know, started to gorge themselves on everything they could possibly put into their bodies. Well, as it came time to leave, they went to the front door, and of course, they didn't realize that they didn't take credit cards, which was the way they had intended to pay for their the food that they were consuming. And so, you know, they looked in their wallets and didn't find any funds there to really enough to cover what they had just consumed. And so Zachary came up with the brilliant idea of leaving Jacob as collateral. Well, they went on down the way. And so, you know, awesome. I think that, Emily, you are obviously gaining someone who's very resourceful. And, you know, Zachary, I'm so proud of you. It's just been a great pleasure, and good luck to you. Thank you. You're welcome to be the future.
Thank you, Joe, for helping to ground us here in this beautiful community. I know I speak for everyone when I say I enjoyed the anecdotes about Zach's childhood. Emily and Zach would also like to welcome up another guest speaker, Emily's godmother, to say a few words. It's my esteemed pleasure to introduce Pam Miller, known to most just simply as Miller. Miller has been close friends with Emily's mother, Margaret, for nearly 3 decades. She's had the pleasure of watching Emily grow up, celebrating birthdays with her, watching her plays, attending her soccer games, and loosely supervising her on trips to Table Rock Lake in Missouri. Miller considers herself to be Emily's spiritual leader, a role she's taken very seriously, having taught her to drink many spirits. Miller?
Just to clarify something, Joe brought up the weather. As Emily's spiritual leader, I did it. Being from Chicago, I'm a little less at ease speaking than all of you laid-back people here in Talkeetna, so please bear with me. As Emily's godmother, I've had 29 years to influence and guide her. And I'd like to share a few of those adventures with you today. But be aware that my recollections are not necessarily CC. That would be chronologically correct. The early years. Emily mastered the art of curling her toes and giggling devilishly whenever her mother told me to put on her shoes. It was a frustrating experience for me. However, over time, she was able to put on her own shoes. But once getting those shoes on, she found new freedom running everywhere. Most parents dread trying to catch their children at that point, but Emily's running form was so bad. Bottom-kneed, flat-footed, she was really easy to corner. She and I worked on correcting that form for countless painful minutes. But her determination paid off, as just last October she ran in and finished the Chicago Marathon. Realizing, though, that running was not her most efficient method of escape, Emily turned to her bicycle. And it wasn't long before she went headfirst over her handlebars, leaving literally half her face on the pavement. But she was not deterred and has no permanent scars. And bike riding became her preferred mode of transportation in college, and as I'm sure you all know, here in Alaska, weather permitting. At this point, Emily discovered that her verbal abilities far exceeded her physical ones. She and sister Sarah argued with me the pros and cons of watching the Michael Jackson video Thriller. And although they were quite young, they won the argument and they did watch it. Consequently, they couldn't sleep that night, and I do believe to this day are traumatized by that video. Of course, you know, as again, I'm sure you all know, Emily has since become a great debater and champion of environmental causes, taking on multi-million-dollar corporations and politicians across the nation. Emily's attention to detail first emerged during Princess Diana's tragic demise. Before I actually heard the news, Emily had been spending the night, and she reported that Diana had indeed broken her arm. After further research, she came and announced that Princess Diana had been shot. I'm not sure even to this day she knows how Princess Diana In her infamous soccer photo, Emily gave her name, listed her position as kneeling, and proclaimed her height to be 4 feet 12 inches. Wait for it. Emily has since honed her skills and has helped change policies, unseat incumbent politicians, and elect presidents.
Yes.
Her efforts earned her an invitation to the 2012 presidential inauguration. The high school and college years, becoming more independent, Emily spent more time with friends